The night was cold, and the streetlights flickered against the damp pavement, as if even the electricity itself was too tired to keep glowing. Jacob, a man with worn-out boots and weary eyes, walked quickly down the narrow alleyway, clutching a grocery bag in one hand. The weight wasn't much, but to him, it felt heavier than it should. Every step he took was haunted by the thought of whether he could stretch the food long enough to feed his little daughter for the week. Life hadn't been fair to him, not since the day his wife passed away, leaving him alone to juggle fatherhood, long shifts at the factory, and a loneliness that never seemed to leave. But just as he turned a corner, his tired steps froze. In the dim glow of the streetlight, he saw a group of boys, young men, really, surrounding a girl pressed against the graffiti-stained brick wall. Her arms were raised defensively, her face streaked with tears, her voice barely audible under the mocking laughter of the boys. In that instant, Jacob felt his heart jolt like a drumbeat in his chest. He didn't know who she was, but he didn't need to. Something primal surged through him, something that reminded him of the promise he had made to his daughter, that he would protect her, always, no matter what. Without thinking, Jacob dropped his bag to the ground, cans and bread rolling across the wet cement. His hands clenched into fists, and in the blink of an eye, he charged forward. His fist connected with the shoulder of the first boy, sending him stumbling. Another tried to shove him back, but Jacob, fueled by anger and instinct, swung again, harder, until the boys realized this wasn't the easy prey they had thought. One by one, they scattered into the shadows, cursing as they ran, leaving the girl trembling and alone against the wall. He stood there, panting heavily, his knuckles sore and his chest rising and falling like a man who had just outrun death itself. He hadn't even asked what was happening. He didn't care. All he knew was that someone needed help, and he had been there at the right moment. Before I continue this story, let me pause here and ask you something important. If you believe in kindness, in the power of standing up for others, and in the beauty of giving second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel. It may seem small, but together, we can spread stories that remind the world how much compassion still exists. As Jacob turned to the girl, his voice softened. Her hands were shaking, her knees weak, but she tried to push him away, insisting she was fine. He could see in her eyes, though, that she was anything but fine. Her mascara was smudged, her coat torn slightly at the sleeve, and she looked like she hadn't eaten in days. He wanted to ask who she was, what had happened, but he also remembered how it felt when strangers pried into his pain after his wife's funeral. So instead, he simply said, "You're safe now. Let me walk you home." The girl hesitated, her lips trembling as though she wanted to argue. But eventually, she nodded. As they walked through the empty streets, Jacob carried his groceries in one arm and kept a protective distance with the other. She didn't speak, and he didn't push. Only when they reached a small park bench did she sit down and finally whisper her name, Emily. Jacob learned that she was only 17, a runaway from a home where she never felt loved. She had been living on and off the streets, hiding in shelters, trying to survive. The boys he had fought off had promised her food earlier, but turned on her the moment they were alone. Hearing her story made Jacob's stomach twist, not only because of the cruelty of it, but because it echoed so much of his own loneliness, his own fear of failing the only family he had left, his daughter, Lily. That night, Jacob couldn't bring himself to leave Emily alone. He knew what it was like to be cornered by life, beaten down with nowhere to go. He made a decision that surprised even himself. He brought her home. It wasn't much, just a cramped 2-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and a heater that rattled when it worked, but it was warm and safe. Lily, curious and bright-eyed, was skeptical at first, but when she saw Emily's trembling smile, she offered her a blanket without hesitation. Days turned into weeks. Emily became part of their little world. Jacob worked long hours, but when he came home, he often found Lily teaching Emily how to cook simple meals, or the two of them sitting on the floor, drawing with broken crayons. For the first time in years, laughter began to echo in Jacob's home again. It felt like a miracle, a fragile, unexpected miracle born out of one night's decision. But miracles never come without trials. Neighbors whispered about the strange girl living with him. His boss at work questioned his judgment when he asked for a day off to take Emily to a clinic for a checkup. Even Jacob's own doubts clawed at him late at night. Was he doing the right thing? Was he putting Lily at risk? He wasn't Emily's father. He wasn't even her guardian. He was just a tired man trying to survive one day at a time. And yet, every time he thought of letting her go, of telling her she needed to find another shelter, he remembered the look on her face that night in the alley. He remembered the way she had flinched at shadows, the way her voice had cracked when she whispered her name. He couldn't do it. He couldn't abandon her the way the world already had. Slowly, Emily began to heal. She found small jobs, babysitting, cleaning, anything that paid a little. She started saving money, and with Jacob's guidance, she enrolled back in school. She still carried scars, invisible ones that surfaced in nightmares and sudden silences, but in the presence of Jacob and Lily, those scars began to fade. Jacob, too, found healing in ways he never expected. Emily's presence reminded him that his heart was still capable of opening, still capable of giving more love than he thought he had left. There was one night, though, that tested everything. Lily had fallen ill, her fever spiking so high that Jacob feared he would lose her. He sat by her bedside, holding her tiny hand, while tears burned his eyes. It was Emily who rushed to the pharmacy, Emily who held Jacob's shoulder when he broke down, Emily who whispered, "She's strong, just like you." In that moment, Jacob realized something profound. Emily wasn't just a girl he had helped. She had become family. Months later, Emily stood on a small stage at her school, holding a certificate of recognition. Jacob sat in the audience with Lily on his lap, clapping until his hands stung. When Emily looked out into the crowd, her eyes met his, and for the first time, she smiled without fear. She wasn't alone anymore. Jacob knew life would still be hard. Bills would still come, shifts would still exhaust him, and the world would still be unkind at times. But he also knew this. Sometimes, family isn't about blood. Sometimes, it's about the people we choose to protect, the ones we choose to love, even when we don't have to. And all of it had started with one moment, one decision to act before asking questions. If this story touched your heart, I ask you from the bottom of mine. Please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel. Stories like this are not just stories. They are reminders of what we're capable of when we choose compassion over indifference. Before we end, I want to leave you with one special request. Comment below with the words "Kindness saves lives" if you believe that even the smallest act of courage can change someone's world forever. Because Jacob's story, Emily's story, is not just fiction. It's a reflection of the truth that surrounds us. We never know whose life we might change by stepping forward instead of walking away. And maybe, just maybe, the world becomes a little brighter each time we do.